It's a peanut butter cookie. It should be very peanutty. You don't need a mixer for any of this stuff. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Nice, big, satisfying coffee shop quality cookies. They're good.
Scrumptious.
Yeah. Again, there's that. See how they come apart like that? Right, so they're crunchy around the edge, but soft in the middle, just the way you want them. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and today I'm going to make some peanut butter cookies. And if you've never made peanut butter cookies before, this is a great recipe because I figured out a way to make the peanut butter cookies more peanutty. Dawn came home from school, she said, I want some peanut butter cookies, so I said, that's great, I'm going to make some and you're going to film it. So, my daughter's holding the camera right now.
Hi.
Okay, great. So let's get this done. So this is a very simple recipe. It uses half a cup of sugar, half a cup of white sugar, half a cup of brown sugar, a cup of peanut butter. A lot of peanut butter cookie recipes, they don't use as much peanut butter as this. This one uses more peanut butter, less butter. So we have a cup of peanut butter, a third of a cup of shortening or lard or butter or margarine, whatever you use, and an egg. Those are the wet ingredients. And then for the dry, we got 1 1/4 cup of flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and about a teaspoon of salt. Okay? You can walk the salt up or down. You can use 3/4 teaspoon, half a teaspoon of salt, but I recommend a teaspoon of salt because it's better. So let's get going here. Let's start with the wet. All right, so our egg here, get that in. And peanut butter. I got some, hoping I got enough. I got some like almost empty things of peanut butter. Like that, see? We gotta use this all up. Someone started a new peanut butter jar without emptying the old peanut butter jar. Which happens when you share peanut butter jars with other human beings. All right, so there's that sorted out. So I arrived at this recipe because every peanut butter cookie recipe I'd ever tried, I just didn't find it turned out right. They weren't. I find a good cookie should be chewy, but also crunchy. And whatever the cookie is about, that should be the star of the show. It's a peanut butter cookie, it should be very peanutty. And so most recipes call for like half a cup. This just makes about 15 cookies. I mean, it makes 24 cookies, but I just make 15 giant cookies. That's my approach anyway. Anyway, most recipes like this, they call for half a cup of peanut butter, but I find if you had a whole cup, you end up using less butter, and it just gives it still has the right texture and holds together. It doesn't become this sort of fall apart, weak cookie. But this one turns out really well. All right, so there's that. Now we got our sugar. Half a cup, right? So we got half a cup of white sugar. There we go. Half a cup of brown sugar. Different flavor profile using white or brown sugar. And you see I'm not being perfectly exact, just close. For some baking it really matters, precision. And for this one, if you're a teaspoon above or below what it calls for, it's not going to be the end of the world. Now we need our margarine. So don't tell anybody, but I'm using the same spoon we use for the butter. So hopefully that doesn't
Peanut butter.
destroy anybody's life. A little bit of peanut butter in with the margarine. Okay, there we go. That's a third of a cup of, it's like a vegan margarine that has low cholesterol for people like me who are trying to get that under control. You use whatever you want. I would use butter for this, and years ago when I could do whatever I wanted, I think my favorite thing to use for this is bacon fat. Like you cook bacon, there's bacon fat left over. bacon fat in a peanut butter cookie is just heaven. Okay, so we got all that. We got our peanut butter, we got our sugar, we got our egg. That's all the wet ingredients. Now just with a fork, I'm going to combine these things together. You don't need a mixer for any of this stuff unless you've got, you know, arthritis or something like that. But otherwise, you know, you could use a whisk, I suppose, but a fork is stiffer. And a fork is a great combining tool for baking. That's good enough for now. I'm also going to show you a neat technique for combining this. For some reason, I find this technique that I'm going to show you works better for baking cookies than just about everything else I've ever seen. Okay, now we're just going to get our dry together. So, dry ingredients is 1 1/4 cup of flour. So there's a cup. There's a 1/4. And we need 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. I mean, this is a very quick thing you can do on a weekday to make everybody happy. Doesn't have to be a big deal mixing up a batch of cookies. 1/2 teaspoon of soda, baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of salt, just ordinary table salt. All right, that's our dry. We just combine that with the fork, like that. It's not perfect, but it's fine. I'll put that in there. You learn baking at home ec, and you have to, like, every single thing, you have to measure it off like this and do all this precision. For some things that really does matter, but for a lot of things, close enough is good enough. Now we're going to combine this with the fork. The trick, in my opinion, to getting a good peanut butter, a chewy cookie, a cookie that's kind of soft and chewy on the inside but crisp on the outside, is having it mixed properly, not whipped. If you whip a cookie, like if you use a mixer, then the cookie will have so much air in it that it'll be crunchy and crispy. So you don't want to crunch. I mean, sometimes crunchy and sometimes crunchy and crispy cookies are good, and that's what we want. But with a peanut butter cookie, you want it to have that feeling when you break it apart. You still want a bit of a crispness around the edges, but generally speaking, you want it to be chewy on the inside, soft. You want it to break apart. So we don't use a machine and we don't whip it up. We don't go crazy. We just combine it with a fork like that. Okay, that's done. That's all we need to do with that. I got the oven preheated to 365, and so all we got to do is get this on a cookie sheet. This is a full-size cookie sheet, okay? Can you get a good shot of that? Yeah. Okay, and this recipe fills this cookie sheet with, you know, when you go to the coffee shop and you order those cookies that cost $3 each, that's what this recipe makes, okay? And they're really good. And this should just fit. So to keep them from sticking on them, you can use a Teflon pan, or you can just take a pan like this. This is just some sort of aluminum alloy. You drop about a teaspoon of vegetable oil. This is actually peanut oil, but it doesn't matter. Just use any vegetable oil or butter or margarine, whatever. But you want something with a high smoke point. And you just rub it on. Okay, you don't need to use Pam. You don't need to use cooking spray. Just a teaspoon of vegetable oil. Just rub that in with your fingers. You can feel when you've applied it to the whole pan. Right? And that's better than using a Teflon pan, because they don't stand up over time. They break down. So now I'm just going to take tablespoonfuls of the cookie, approximate tablespoonfuls, and spread them on the pan. I'm going very quick, because we haven't got all day to do this, right? We want to get stuff done. I think part of the trick to being effective in the kitchen is not making a big deal out of things. So now I've made, you see I've arranged these in a kind of pattern where each cookie has lots of room to expand. But I have some dough left over in the pan. So now I'm committing bits of dough to the cookie balls that seem a bit small. There's a bit of stuff there. I'll get rid of that clump of sugar. And I'm just committing little bits of extra dough to the balls that seem a bit small in comparison to the others. Doing this all by eye. I'm not like weighing these out. I love these YouTube channels where everybody weighs everything. Just got time to do that. I mean, those people are right. That is a more precise way to do things. But just got time for that. Okay, so that's pretty close. Okay. Now I just take the fork and I do a crisscross. Right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Just like that. Doesn't take long. These need to be partially spread out or they won't spread out properly. Now, we've already added lots of salt to these. And this extra step, you can just, I'm not going to do this for all of them. I'm going to have my daughter and son taste test. You just do a little sprinkle on top, like that. So I just did that for half of them. I don't know how we're going to remember which half.
Yeah.
Here, let's, we'll make these ones, I don't know if that'll even show up. But we know this side has this funny marking. Okay. Pac-Man. All right, that'll probably just expand and you won't even notice. But anyway, we'll try to remember the ones on the right-hand side. So now I'm going to stick these are all ready to go. I'm going to stick them in the oven for, again, the salt thing, you don't have to do that. That's just like an extra thing to make them extra nice. Some cookies, a little bit of salt on top really does, you know, I mean, cookies aren't healthy. You don't eat cookies because they're health food. And the salt just enhances the flavor of the cookie, but you don't have to do it. Anyway, we're going to stick this in the oven for, I got 365 oven for 12 minutes. All right, we'll see you in 12 minutes. All right, the timer's gone off. That's been 12 minutes. So let's have a look at what we got here. All right, these look okay to me. So what we're looking for is around the edges. I don't know if it comes across on camera, but just a little bit of browning around the edges. These look like they should be, they're not brown on top, right? Like browned. But there's browning around the edges, which means there's probably browning on the bottom. So the browning on the edges and the bottom gives you that crispness. And by taking them out a little bit early, see, they look a little bit puffy right now. But after about 10-15 minutes, they're gonna fall down and have that nice cracked look that you expect peanut butter cookies to have. And we can see the little marks we made so we know which ones have the salt on top. All right, so we're gonna come back in about 15-20 minutes when these is cooled down because these are much too fragile to try to pick out of the pan. You know, when you make cookies, pull them out of the oven, put them on a little cooling rack, right? You can see that. And just leave them like that for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I know it's hard to do, but just leave them alone. Okay, they got stuff to do. They're not done. They're still cooking in a sense, right? They're not done yet. So just leave them alone. We'll see you in a little bit. All right, these cookies have been sitting for about half an hour. You can see that they've fallen flat. They're not puffy anymore. They have the right appearance of a peanut butter cookie. Okay. So, you know, before you take these out, it's worthwhile, if any of them are touching, just break that connection so the cookies don't break when you're lifting them out. No big deal. Just put a knife in between the two and just wiggle. Notice I'm using the knife upside down so it doesn't score the surface of the metal here. Right. Handy to have something like this, but most of them should just lift off. Right, so we didn't need a Teflon pan. Don't need anything out. We just spread a little bit of oil along the bottom. Okay. Now, just in case you're curious, these cookies are about 4 inches in diameter, and we've got 13. I said 15 earlier. We've got 13. Baker's dozen, and this pan is 18 inches by 13 inches. All right, that's so you can get 12 nice, big, satisfying coffee shop quality cookies. All right, and these are the ones we put the extra salt on. All right, so I'm just going to take one of these aside for now. And here, zoom out a little bit there, love. All right, I got both my chillins here. If I can have a bite.
Yeah.
There you go. It's almost supper time. I'm making supper right now. Gotta get me my camera here. Yeah, so we'll give this a try. And they're good.
Scrumptious.
Yeah. Again, there's that. See how they come apart like that? So they're soft, but they're still around the edge. And around the edge is a bit of browning, right? So they're crunchy around the edge, but soft in the middle, just the way you want them. And they're good. I don't know how I'm not going to ruin our supper now. I'm eating these cookies. Oh my goodness, they're good. Oh my God. You can camera to it.
Sorry, I'm eating.
I know. All right, so I don't know how much of that got on camera because my daughter was all over the place enjoying her cookie, but that is proof that it's a delicious cookie.
Yeah.
So that's how to make a really good peanut butter cookie. Doesn't take long to do it all. I think it took 10 minutes to get those in the oven from nowhere. So I don't understand why a lot of people these days don't have time to bake. It's not that hard to do. If you're gonna cook supper anyway, you got the oven going. We're doing chicken in the oven today. So it just made sense. We're gonna have the oven going. Want to have some delicious, perfect cookies to have after supper as a wonderful dessert. I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Check out my YouTube channel, of course, and check out my Substack article that I write every week at maritimegardening.substack.com. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden, have fun in your kitchen. Thanks for watching.